There are moments in human history where biology meets geopolitics, where the science of fear, reaction, and survival manifests in real time. Not in a lab, not in theory, but on the global stage. And today is one of those moments, because Israel's greatest fear, the fear they've rehearsed for, trained for, and tried to delay at all costs, just came true. Let's not waste time. I am not a political analyst, I am a neuroscientist. But today I want you to see how fear, vision, and biology are not only shaping human minds, they are shaping nations. And Israel, a nation forced in trauma and defense, has just stepped into the center of its deepest neural trigger, existential threat. You walk into a dark room at night, you hear a sound, a creak in the floorboards, a rustle by the window. Your heart jumps, your breathing shallows, your muscles tighten. Now pause and ask yourself, was there any real threat in that moment? Maybe it was just the wind. Maybe it was your cat. Maybe it was nothing at all. But your brain didn't wait to analyze. It didn't ask for proof. It didn't care whether the threat was real or imagined. It reacted as if your life was in danger. That's the truth most people don't understand. The brain doesn't differentiate between a perceived threat and a real one. This is not theory, this is biology. Inside your skull sits a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. It is the command center of fear. The amygdala's job is not to ask questions, it's to react fast. It's wired to keep you alive, not to keep you comfortable. And when it detects any sign of danger, whether it's a tiger in the jungle or an angry email from your boss, it sends the same alarm. It floods your body with adrenaline, it raises your cortisol levels, it pulls blood from your gut and sends it to your limbs. It prepares you to fight, flee, or freeze. Here's the kicker. It responds just as intensely to a thought as it does to reality. Think about that. You could be lying in bed, safe in your home, but if you're imagining being abandoned, losing your job, failing in public, or being humiliated, your body reacts as if it's happening right now. This is why anxiety spirals. This is why trauma loops. This is why people who seem physically safe still feel like they're in danger. Because the nervous system doesn't wait for evidence, it reacts to belief. And this is where your power lives. You might be living in fear right now, not because someone is attacking you, but because your brain is playing old tapes. You're not enough. You'll fail. Will you leave you? It's too late. And every time those thoughts repeat, your brain lights up like it's under siege. This is why people stay stuck. They walk around with the nervous system in crisis, responding to ghosts of the past and predictions of a future that hasn't even happened. They avoid risks not because they're dangerous, but because the feeling of danger is so overwhelming. But once you understand this, once you truly understand that your biology is reacting to perception, not fact, you get your power back. You realize just because I feel fear doesn't mean I'm in danger. You realize I can train my mind to observe the signal without becoming the signal. Let me show you how this plays out in everyday life. A student stands outside the exam hall. Their hands are shaking, heart pounding, mind racing. They say, I'm scared, I can't do this. But what's the threat? Failing a paper? Getting a low grade? Embarrassment? None of those things are physically dangerous. But the brain doesn't care. It's sounding the alarm anyway. Because it's not reacting to logic, it's reacting to meaning. It's reacting to what that grade represents to them. Approval, success, self-worth, or take the entrepreneur launching a business, terrified of being judged, of going broke, of being ridiculed. The fear isn't about losing money. It's about what failure symbolizes. I'll be worthless. People will laugh. I'll prove them right. Again, imagined future. No immediate threat. But the brain doesn't distinguish. Here's the truth that changes everything. Your thoughts are not reality, but your body responds as if they are. That means If you can train your mind, if you can pause, breathe, redirect your focus, you can shift your entire biology. You can lower your heart rate, reclaim your breath, reopen the gates of logic, re-engage your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that makes rational decisions, plans, sees possibilities. This is why breathwork works. This is why meditation rewires the brain. This is why visualization is powerful. You're not just calming down, you're interrupting the false signal of danger. Because when you interrupt the signal, you interrupt the reaction. It takes training, it takes self-awareness, but this is the difference between those who stay stuck in cycles of fear and those who rise above. The world is not getting safer. News will keep triggering you. Opinions will keep threatening your identity. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. That's life. But the question is, will you let your brain run you on autopilot, or will you take the wheel? Imagine being the person who can feel fear and still take the shot. The athlete who sees the crowd, feels the pressure, and still locks in. The speaker who walks onto stage with their heart racing, but breathes, grounds, and delivers truth. The leader who makes a hard call, not because they weren't afraid, but because they chose clarity over panic. That's not bravery. That's biology. Trained. You can remove fear from your life, but you can rewire how you respond to it. Because the brain may not know the difference between a perceived threat and a real one, but you can. And when you do, you become unstoppable. Every human being, no matter where they are from or what they've been through, is built with one thing in common: a nervous system that craves safety through patterns. Predictability is not just a luxury, it's a biological requirement for balance, focus, and strength. The nervous system seeks rhythm, order, and structure. And when that structure breaks, chaos enters, and chaos, whether emotional or environmental, is the ultimate disruptor of human potential. Your body, your brain, and your performance all respond to rhythm. Think about it. The beat of your heart, the pace of your breath, the cycles of your sleep, the routines you live by, from the coffee you make each morning to the roads you take to work, all of it is rhythm. All of it is predictable. And that predictability isn't boring. It's what allows you to thrive. Now, picture this. You wake up and your phone is exploding with missed call. An unexpected emergency pulls you out the door. Your schedule is gone. Your mind is spinning. No food, no focus. You're rushing, reactive, scattered. What happens? Your nervous system shifts into survival mode. Cortisol levels spike. Blood pressure rises. Your prefrontal cortex, the decision-making part of your brain, begins to shut down. You're not thinking anymore. You're reacting. You've lost your internal rhythm. The system is no longer calm. It's disarmed. And here's the brutal truth. Most people live their entire lives in that chaos, always responding to what's urgent instead of what's important, always being pulled around by emergencies, texts, arguments, headlines, and fear. And then they wonder why they can't focus, why they feel exhausted, why they feel disconnected from purpose. Because the nervous system has no chance to stabilize, no pattern to follow, no floor to stand on. In neuroscience, we call this allostatic overload. When the body and brain are constantly adapting to unpredictable stressors, and the wear and tear on the system becomes destructive. People break down not because they are weak, but because their system is under siege by chaos. And yet, when you give the nervous system rhythm, when you establish simple, grounded habits like waking up at the same time, deliberate breath work, journaling, structured movement, consistent eating, the entire system comes back online. You begin to think clearer. You begin to move with intention. You begin to feel safe, not because the world is safe, but because you have internal structure. Look at elite performers, athletes, surgeons, CEOs, soldiers. They don't leave things to chance. They live in tight rhythm. They train their nervous system with structure so that when chaos hits, they remain grounded. Their heart rate doesn't spike unnecessarily, their mind doesn't scatter, they return to breath, to focus, to action. That's not magic. That's discipline built on predictability. And it's not just for the elite, it's for everyone. For the student who struggles with anxiety before exams, for the mother holding her home together under stress, for the entrepreneur fighting fires every day. You don't need perfect circumstances. You need structure that builds internal calm. Ask yourself, do you run your day or does your run you? If your life feels chaotic, it's not because you're incapable. It's because your system is trying to operate without rhythm. You're trying to sprint with no track. You're trying to lead with no compass. Even a few degrees of predictability can bring your nervous system out of panic. Something as simple as a morning breathwork routine, 5 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing, has been shown to regulate heart rate variability, reduce cortisol, and stabilize the mind. A short walk after meals, rhythm, sleeping and waking at consistent hours, rhythm. Why do people crave rituals? Because rituals bring order. Order brings certainty, and certainty calms the system. You don't rise in life by chasing chaos. You rise by becoming the calm within it. Think of a pilot flying through a storm. The turbulence shakes the plane, visibility drops to zero, alarms are screaming, but what does the pilot do? They return to instrument training, to muscle memory, to protocol. That predictability is the lifeline. You are the pilot of your life. Chaos will come in relationships, in business, in society. But if your nervous system is trained on rhythm, you don't collapse. You adjust. You lead. You respond, not react. This is not about controlling the world. You never will. This is about controlling how your biology meets the world. Build pattern. Guard your routines. Design predictability in your day, not to be boring, but to be powerful. Because when the world shakes, the person with rhythm becomes the one everyone turns to, the one who keeps breathing, the one who doesn't flinch, the one who leads, not because they don't feel fear, but because their nervous system is trained to find clarity through structure, through rhythm, through predictability. You walk into a room and without a single word spoken, you feel it, the tension, the pressure, the unease. Your chest tightens slightly, your shoulders pull up. You don't know what happened, but you know something's off. That's not magic. That's not guesswork. That's biology. That's neuroception, your nervous system picking up on threat before your mind even registers it. And that is the proof right there. Stress is contagious. You're not a closed loop. It's social. It's responsive. It's watching, mirroring, and adapting to the energy, tone, breath, and facial expressions of the people around you. This is hardwired in our biology. Mirror neurons fire when we observe the state of another person. If they're afraid, we start feeling fear. If they're anxious, our breath quickens. Their stress becomes our stress. Ever noticed how one anxious person in a group can shift the whole vibe? A leader walks into the room and starts pacing, muttering under their breath, snapping at people. In less than 5 minutes, everyone's productivity is shot. People get short with each other. Tension spreads. No fire, no visible threat, but the nervous system is on edge. The room feels dangerous. That's not imagination. That's social biology at work. And if you're not aware of it, you're not in control of it. But here's the other side of the coin, the one most people miss, the side that changes everything. If stress is contagious, so is resilience. Your calm is just as infectious as your chaos. Your grounded breath can anchor a room the same way panic can sink it. The power of one emotionally regulated person is immeasurable in a space filled with uncertainty. Let's talk real life. You've seen it in families. A household under financial stress, everything's tight, unpredictable. The kids feel it. Even if the parents say nothing, the vibe is electric with fear. But sometimes there's that one person, maybe the mother, maybe the grandfather, who stays calm, who wakes up early, takes care of their body, talks slow, breathes deep, brings rhythm into the day. And somehow, because they don't fall apart, the family doesn't either. That's not being strong for the family. That's regulating the nervous system for the tribe. That's leadership on a biological level. Or take a team in crisis. Sales are down, pressure from the top, people gossiping, blame being thrown around. And then the team lead gathers everyone, pauses, locks eye contact, and says slowly, clearly, we are not going to spiral. We are going to breathe, focus, and solve this. And the energy shifts. People feel seen. They start to think clearly again. Why? Because one person chose resilience over reactivity. This is the power you hold, even if you don't know it. You influence the emotional climate of every room you walk into. Your breath, your tone, your eye contact, your posture, they all send a signal. Either we're in danger or we've got this. And you don't have to be the loudest voice to lead. You just have to be the most grounded one. But here's the hard truth. Most people don't train for this. They let stress use them like a puppet. They absorb every anxiety in the room like a sponge. They mirror panic without knowing it. And by the end of the day, they wonder why they're exhausted, burned out, or angry. The antidote is not escaping stress. It's building resilience that radiates. You build that by learning how to regulate your own nervous system. You build that by using deliberate cold exposure to train your breath under discomfort. You build it by practicing slow nasal breathing when your heart's racing. You build it by walking through conflict without raising your voice. You build it by catching yourself in spirals and saying, not today. I'm staying grounded. And what happens when you do this consistently? You become the eye of the storm, the calm in the chaos. You walk into high-pressure environments and shift the energy without saying a word, simply by how you hold yourself. That's not a vibe. That's neuroscience, that's biology, weaponized in the direction of clarity, strength, and stability. Because you can't stop other people from panicking, but you can become the person who doesn't absorb it. In fact, you can become the person who transforms it. Imagine what would happen if more parents understood this, if more teachers brought this into their classrooms, if more managers trained this in their teams, if more young people learned how to lead themselves before they try to lead others, we'd have fewer breakdowns, fewer emotional explosions, fewer silent spirals, and we'd have more connection, more focus, more breadth, more resilience, because when one person stays calm, deeply, unshakably calm, everyone else feels a little safer. And when people feel safe, they perform better. They think clearer. They connect deeper. They solve problems faster. All because someone made the decision, I will not let stress pass through me unchecked. I will be the firewall. I will be the anchor. I will be the thermometer. That's not just self-mastery. That's impact. That's power. What if I told you that the next 7 days of your life, your performance, your energy, your creativity, your ability to lead, think, decide, grow, will not be determined by your motivation, your intelligence, or even your ambition, but by your sleep, your focus, and your neurochemistry? It sounds simple, but it's not. Because in a world running on caffeine, chaos, and constant distractions, most people are destroying their biology and expecting miracles. They are trading deep rest for late night scrolling, sharp focus for endless multitasking, and stable mood for instant gratification. And then they wonder why they feel foggy, why they can't focus for more than 5 minutes, why they're exhausted before noon, why they're reactive, moody, emotionally hijacked by tiny inconveniences. Let me say it clearly. Your nervous system runs the show. Your neurochemistry is not a background process. It is the process. Your brain doesn't magically produce motivation, focus, clarity, or emotional strength. Those are all byproducts of chemical events inside your body. And the 3 biggest levers that influence those events: sleep, focus, and the way you manage your brain chemistry. Let's start with sleep. Sleep is not rest. It is not downtime. It is not the reward you give yourself after hustling all day. Sleep is the upgrade. Sleep is when your brain rewires, repairs, resets. During deep sleep, your brain flushes out metabolic waste, stores memories, recalibrates emotions, and recharges your energy systems. You don't grow in the gym. You grow in your sleep. You don't heal from trauma during the day. You heal in your sleep. If you get high quality, consistent sleep, 7.5 to 9 hours with deep and REM phases, you are waking up with your prefrontal cortex online, your dopamine pathways reset, your emotional regulation back in place. But if you cut sleep, you're showing up to life like someone trying to run a Ferrari with an empty gas tank and fogged up windows. You can pretend it's fine, you can caffeinate, but deep down your nervous system is whispering, we're not okay. Now focus. Focus is not about effort, it's not about willpower. Focus is a neurochemical cocktail. Dopamine drives your motivation toward a goal. Norepinephrine locks in your attention. Acetylcholine sharpens the detail. But these chemicals are limited. And when you blow them on checking your phone 30 times before breakfast, you drain the reservoir before you even get started. This is why time management doesn't work unless you manage attention. It's not about doing more, it's about protecting your focus windows like sacred ground. Because once those chemicals are used up, they're not instantly refilled. You don't get another hit of deep focus by sheer will. Your biology says, sorry, come back tomorrow. So the question is, what are you using your best brain hours on? Are you spending the first 90 minutes of your day on deep work, or are you giving it away to emails, notifications, and noise? Because what you focus on determines what circuits get wired. You are not just wasting time when you scroll aimlessly. You are literally training your brain to fragment, to chase novelty, to avoid depth. And then when it's time to lock in, your brain says, nah, we chase dopamine, we don't do hard things. But you can retrain it. You can build a focused mind like you build a strong body, through reps. Every time you choose single tasking over distraction, every time you delay gratification, every time you train in silence, you are reinforcing a mind built for excellence. Now, let's talk neurochemistry. Dopamine, serotonin, cortisol, oxytocin. These are not just feel-good chemicals. They are the architects of your experience. They decide whether you feel motivated or defeated, confident or uncertain, clear or chaotic. And you don't need pills to shift them, you need awareness. Sunlight first thing in the morning spikes your dopamine and anchors your circadian rhythm. Movement, even light exercise, boosts serotonin and rewires your mood. Cold exposure builds resilience by teaching your body to regulate adrenaline and cortisol. Deliberate breathwork slows your heart rate and signals safety to the brain. Eye contact, laughter, presence, they create oxytocin and deepen trust. You are not broken, you're just biochemically out of tune. And tuning back in doesn't require perfection, it requires intentionality. So now I'll ask you again, what are the next 7 days of your life going to look like? Because it won't be determined by what you hope happens, it'll be decided by how you set the stage biologically. Will you protect your sleep like your success depends on it? Will you schedule focus the way an athlete schedules training? Will you choose habits that sharpen your chemistry instead of drowning it? The version of you that is focused, grounded, clear-minded, confident, that version doesn't live in the future. That version is one biological choice away. You don't need more motivation, you need a better operating system. Sleep, focus, and neurochemistry. The 3 gates that unlock every result you're chasing. We used to believe that technology was just a tool, something separate from us, A machine you could pick up and put down. A screen you could walk away from. A convenience, a luxury. But that line is gone now. In 2025, that border between what is digital and what is biological has blurred so completely most people don't even notice they've already crossed it. Technology is no longer just something we use. Technology is now something we are. Your phone doesn't sit in your pocket anymore. It lives in your nervous system. Your thoughts, your sleep, your heartbeat, your attention span, your dopamine levels, they're being influenced by algorithms, notifications, and the architecture of the apps you open before you even speak a word in the morning. We're not just holding devices, we are becoming the devices. Let's talk real. You wake up, before you even stand, you are scrolling, you haven't hydrated, you haven't stretched, you haven't even looked outside. But your brain has already been hijacked not by choice, but by habit, by design. Your dopamine system, the very chemistry that governs motivation, focus, drive, has already been flooded with tiny digital hits, notifications, likes, alerts, messages, micro rewards, all before breakfast. This isn't harmless. Every time you scroll past 50 videos in 10 minutes, you're teaching your brain that novelty is better than depth, that speed is better than stillness, that pleasure is more important than purpose. And the cost? Attention fragmentation, burnout, mental fatigue, emotional dysregulation. Because your brain wasn't built for this. Your biology is ancient. Your neurochemistry still thinks you're hunting in the woods and building shelter from storms. It doesn't know how to handle 700 dopamine spikes a day. It doesn't know what to do when your eyes stare at blue light for 12 hours straight, when your breath gets shallow while reading bad news at midnight, when your sleep is shattered by phantom vibrations. You're not weak, you're not broken, you're overclocked. And if you don't take back control, technology will not just distract you, it will rewire you. But here's where it gets powerful. Once you understand that technology is now biology, you can start making decisions that elevate your system instead of draining it. You can stop being the puppet and become the master of your own mind again. Start with the simplest shift, boundaries. What enters your mind enters your nervous system. So create digital borders like you would guard your home. No phone first hour of the morning. No screens 90 minutes before bed. Turn off all non-essential notifications. Use tech for creation, not consumption. Protect your mornings like sacred territory. This is not a productivity hack. This is neuroprotection. Then there's posture. You don't think about it, but slouching over a screen for hours a day literally compresses your diaphragm, shortens your breath, elevates your cortisol, and signals to your brain that you are in a state of threat. All from how you sit, all from how you hold your device. Look around next time you're on a train or in a coffee shop, shoulders rounded, faces down, breaths shallow, thumbs scrolling. You are looking at the postural collapse of an entire generation. And their nervous systems are screaming silently for air. But if you train yourself to be intentional, chin up, eyes level, shoulders back, deep breathing, you begin to take your nervous system back. You begin to show your biology, we are not under threat. We are present. We are in control. Technology has also rewired our sense of time. With infinite scrolling, binge content, and endless tabs, our brains are losing the muscle of patience. But focus is a biological currency. You don't just get better at focusing, you train for it. The same way you train for strength in the gym. Want that deep, unshakable focus? Begin by taking control of your digital diet. Block distractions. Practice monotasking. Spend 30 minutes a day just reading one book. Meditate. Journal. Create more than you consume. Because every time you delay the hit of dopamine, every time you say no to the quick fix and yes to depth, you rewire your system. You take your biology back from tech. Now let's be clear. Technology is not the villain, it is neutral. It's a tool. But tools in the wrong hands can build prisons instead of power. The same device that can destroy your attention span can also build your legacy. You can use it to learn anything, build businesses, share your voice with the world. You can use it to program your neurochemistry instead of letting someone else manipulate it. But it starts with awareness, with discipline, with designing your environment so your tech habits serve your biology, not sabotage it. The greatest superpower in the 21st century is not intelligence, not speed, not connection, it's control. Control over your inputs, control over your mind, control over your system in a world trying to hijack it. So the next time you pick up your phone, remember, you're not just opening an app, you're opening a portal into your biology, into your future, into the version of you you are becoming. And that version is being sculpted one scroll, one swipe, one conscious or unconscious choice at a time. History isn't just a story of kings and wars. It's not just a series of events captured in books and museums. History is a loop, a pattern, and it doesn't just repeat itself because people forget. It repeats because brains don't evolve fast enough to break the loop. That's the raw truth. We've built cities that touch the cloud. We've harnessed electricity, decoded DNA, landed on the moon, and built artificial intelligence. But emotionally, psychologically, biologically, we're still running on an ancient operating system. The same fear responses that made a caveman jump at a rustle in the bushes are the same circuits firing today when you get a passive-aggressive email or see someone's success on social media. The same tribal wiring that told early humans to protect their in-group and fear outsiders is still the engine behind division, conflict, prejudice, just dressed in modern clothes. History isn't driven by time, it's driven by behavior. And behavior is driven by the brain. That's why wars return, that's why power corrupts, that's why greed resurfaces, why civilizations rise and fall, why revolutions spark again and again. Because we keep reacting to the world with the same untrained, emotionally hijacked nervous systems that humans had 1,000 years ago. Unless that changes, nothing changes. You can upgrade your devices, your lifestyle, your environment, but if you don't upgrade the operating system of your mind, you are just repeating ancient loops with modern tools. Let's take this from a national scale down to the personal. Ever notice how people recreate the same relationship patterns again and again? Different names, same arguments. Different job, same burnout. Different year, same struggle. That's not fate, that's not bad luck. That's neuroplasticity, the brain wiring patterns based on the past, and unconsciously repeating them because it confuses familiarity with safety. The brain is not wired for freedom. It's wired for familiarity. That's why change feels terrifying. That's why even pain becomes comfortable if it's all you've known. So unless you intervene, unless you train the brain to evolve past its reflexes, you stay on repeat. New year, same you. And that becomes your personal history, your personal legacy. But here's the power. The brain can evolve. It doesn't have to stay trapped in ancient circuitry. You can rewire it through deliberate effort, through focused intention, through conscious practice. You can break free from the default settings that have kept people stuck for generations. You can train your nervous system to recognize fear and choose courage anyway. You can build the awareness to pause before reacting, to respond from wisdom instead of wounds. You can develop the emotional resilience to stay calm in chaos, to face discomfort, to speak truth, to lead with clarity, even when your primitive brain wants to run, attack, or freeze. And when that happens, you break the loop, you become the interruption in the family line that always chose silence over healing. You become the first in your circle to say, this ends with me. You become the one who leads not from ego, but from emotional intelligence. That is not just evolution, that is revolution. Because make no mistake, the greatest revolution is not political, it is neurological. When enough people learn to regulate their emotions, delay gratification, think critically, resist manipulation, and lead with vision, the trajectory of history bends. And it doesn't take everyone. It just takes a few brave enough to train their brain like warriors train their bodies, to sit with discomfort instead of reacting, to hold opposing truths and still move forward, to be aware of old patterns and still choose a new path. That's how you evolve, not by information alone, but by transformation. Because knowledge without integration is just more noise. The real work is in rewiring. You want to make a difference? Don't just read more books. Don't just shout louder online. Change your nervous system. Recondition your reactions. Interrupt your own patterns. Lead from the future, not the past. Because history doesn't change until the people living in it do. And the people don't change until their brains do. So ask yourself, will you be another echo of history or the evolution it's been waiting for? Because the cycle only ends when you rise above it. And the world doesn't need more noise. It needs minds that are trained, hearts that are awake, and humans who are finally ready to lead from a place the past never dared to touch.